Well, Saturday night in College Station, two SEC teams, two very different styles. Mike Elko knows what's coming. A fast, physical spread offense that'll test you sideline to sideline. Mississippi State's got confidence, energy, and a head coaching committed to running the football. The question is, can A&M handle the pace and physicality? Let's talk about it.
You are Locked On Mississippi State, your daily podcast on the Mississippi State Bulldogs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. This episode's brought to you by Mazda. Like our players, we sweat every detail because when you make every move count, pulling off the unexpected is only the beginning. Stay tuned later for highlights in this week's Moving the Game Forward. Mazda, move and be moved. My name is Jaron Spor. I'm a national college football writer at Athlon Sports. That's Landon McBride. We've got a packed show for you today. Just like last week, we're going to be joined by a special guest to break down the Texas A&M Aggies. And then, of course, we will give our upset of the week. But firstly, you got to dive into our opponent's press conference like we do every single week. What kind of stood out to you about what Mike Elko had to say, Landon?
It was this one part in his quote, I think they do a really, really good job testing you. And then he goes on to exactly what that means. And he was talking about the offense. And yeah, that's exactly what Mississippi State does under Levy. He talks about how he tries to stretch them sideline to sideline and vertically stretching the field that way to where you really have to cover the entire football field. You know, some teams don't really run stuff horizontally that much, but this Mississippi State team tests you and with a lot of speed too.
Yes, and obviously watching Mississippi State and covering Mississippi State, we know about the speed, as do a lot of the teams that they have to play. You know, he was also asked about Mario Craver, who we talked about on Wednesday's podcast, having a fantastic year, a Biletnikoff type season, and obviously was here at Mississippi State last year. And they kind of asked him like, "Hey, has he opened up to you about facing his former team? What it means to him? Anything like that?" And he said, "No, they're trying not to make it a big deal about it, and it's just another game for him." He kept it short and sweet, and well, I think that's true in terms of that. That's what they would like to do. It's still going to be at least some kind of emotion when you go back and play your old team, whether you loved it there, hated it there, love people there, or don't like people. Like, it's still going to be some kind of emotion when you're out there.
Yeah, there's still going to be something to it. And I think it's easier to make it just another game because they're at A&M. If they were going to Starkville, I think it would be a little bit harder to have that mentality. But I mean, we see it. I mean, we saw it going back to Sunday with the Packers Cowboys game with how Kenny Clark and Micah Parsons reacted to playing those teams. So, yeah, I mean, it hits different people at different times. So maybe he's already gone through it and he has moved on to it's just another game. And it might hit him in the middle of the game too, not till the third quarter or something. But, you know, those were your teammates, your brothers that you went to war with for him for a year, but, you know, for however long, and it's going to hit him at some point.
Yeah, for sure. And you know, it might be something quick. Yeah, you know, spent the 1 year here. It wasn't like he was, 3-4 years here and then transferred out and things like that.
It might be like a weird pregame thing where you see him like shake his head a little bit and then he's back in it. But
yeah, for sure. Mississippi State, he was asked about the running game. 40 carries, almost 200 yards. Would have been over 200 yards rushing if you take out the sacks from Shapen. And just kind of the challenge that they will face. Obviously, they played a really good run team last week in Auburn and shut down Auburn's run game. They also shut down Notre Dame's running attack. Even though Notre Dame scored 40 points, they did pretty well against Notre Dame's rushing attack. Last year, he brought up how, you know, this is just a completely different team. And systematically, he said it's a lot different because – yeah, the talent is different, but it's definitely different in the backfield. And he mentioned Booth having a great game against them last year. That was a 34-24 win for Texas A&M. Booth had 12 carries, 79 yards, so 6.6 yards a carry. But now you have Bothwell to that backfield. And so he acknowledged it's going to be a big task for them.
Yeah, and he talks about the physicality a little bit. They run a spread offense, but they're really physical in how they run the football. I think that's the thing not a lot of people talk about with that offense. And yeah, I think Fluff is the one that really brings that physicality with how he runs. And then obviously just the increased size in the offensive line, which helps a lot when you're trying to run the football with. So, and we saw they're committed, and we questioned if Mississippi State would be able to run the football really effectively against a good run defense in Tennessee, and they did. So I think that's kind of like the new rule is we should expect them to run the football well going forward.
And coming into the season, that's what we thought. It wasn't going to matter who they had defensively. Like Mississippi State was going to have success running the football. That's what we thought coming into the season. Now, they just didn't really commit to it a lot early on, and then they kind of went up. They had their ups and downs running the football, and so then we were like, oh, wait, can they actually run? But against Tennessee, that was the team we thought we would see all year that could just run on anyone. And, like I said, to A&M's credit, they played Notre Dame, who Jeremiah Love is probably the best running back in college football. Yes, he had 94 yards, but it took him 23 carries at 4.1 yards a carry. Jadarian Price is a really good backup running back. That's one of the best tandems in the sport. And he had 68 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns on 5.7 yards a carry. But as a team, they had 136 yards rushing. So they had a lot of success shutting down good teams running the football so far this year.
Yeah, this is Bill, we're saying this like this is now the new test. We thought Tennessee was going to be the big test, but it might be early on A&M's run defense. And if they go out and put up another near 200 yards, pretty much between Booth and Bothwell, we have to quit questioning whether this team, if there's a running defense that can stop them. I mean, obviously, if you face the number one run defense, then yes, we'll have that conversation. But just the good run defenses, it should be no question.
Right, and you need Albert Reese to be healthy and playing. Like he left the game last week, and Levy didn't say anything about any of the injuries. Just said he wasn't going to comment on it. Would let the availability report talk. But of course, even though we have one availability report out so far, we don't have. Yeah, there's more coming, and Friday's the one that matters at that point. And then obviously pregame, see what he's doing, because even Fridays could come out and he could be listed as something, and then the game happen, or then he goes through warmups and it goes really well, or it goes really bad, or whatever. You never know. But yeah, I think a lot of the stuff he said just shows how much respect these coaches have for Mississippi State this year.
Yeah, I agree. They notice the steps that this team has taken to go in the right direction, and they're all of them comment on what Levy is building. So they're also seeing the incremental steps that we might not all see because we're looking at bigger picture.
Yeah, for sure. All right, coming up next, we have a special guest joining us to talk about Texas A&M more in depth. Don't go anywhere. Well, the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I know a lot of people that use FanDuel. They love it because it gives them so many ways to play. They've built parlays, tried player props, and even followed the live lines during games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you've got a little something riding on the action, whether you are a casual fan or love diving into the stats. FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. And this episode is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that make the neighborhood the neighborhood. These are the places that become an extension of home, whether it's the sports bar dedicated to your team's fan base, the spot with the best wings in town for game day, or that beloved local chain that's been rooted in your community for years. These businesses are what bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. And I know everyone has that local spot that they love to go to watch different sporting events, to sit down and just have a chill evening with the family. The NFL's on, you're going to go watch multiple games, things like that. And, sometimes it's not even a spot to watch sports. Maybe it's just a spot that you guys love to go to, and the owner knows your name, the workers know your name, they know your order, It just makes you feel good. It makes you feel at home. And the best part about those is all the money that goes into those local spots stay in the community. And that's honestly the best thing about it. So Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/lockedoncollege to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square, see you in the neighborhood. All right, we're back, and I'm joined with Matt from Locked On Aggies. We got a big game this weekend. Before the year, we wouldn't have thought it was a big game after Mississippi State's 2-10 season. But yeah, tell us a little bit about the Aggies.
Yeah, I mean, this is a team that has, I think performed above expectations to a certain extent. They went on the road and beat Notre Dame, which is a game that I think a lot of people didn't expect them to win, and they've done a lot of good things in a lot of different ways. They can win games in multiple ways. The first week, it was all about the explosive passing game. The second week, I guess it was still all about the explosive passing game. But then against Notre Dame, they kind of did it in both phases. And then against Auburn in their win, they were able to win a defensive, knockdown, drag out fight with just the running game when the passing game wasn't really clicking. So this is a team that can really adjust to whatever sort of style of opponent that they're facing. And against Mississippi State this week, that should be the case again. I feel like it's going to be another opportunity for them to adjust and face an offense that really is kind of unlike anything they've seen so far.
Yeah, it's funny you talked about that. So I also write for Athlon Sports, and I just did an article this week about how A&M's kind of been Jekyll and Hyde all year, even defensively. Like they were, not as great against Notre Dame, but y'all really good against Auburn. And so, and then like you mentioned, offensively, they've been amazing. And then Auburn wasn't as good, but it's still, it's been impressive to see what the Aggies have done. For Mississippi State, I think the biggest surprise has been the defense, because when you have an offensive-minded coach, you always expect that jump on offense in year two. And so what they're doing offensively isn't a big surprise. But I know Tennessee ended up scoring 41 in overtime, but they're one of the best run offenses in the country. And to hold them to 131 yards rushing, I thought was massive in that game. And that was really what gave Tennessee a fighting chance. But obviously, Joey Aguilar was incredible through the air. But I think that's been probably the biggest surprise this year, because they only allow 170 yards passing, 135 yards rushing on the ground. And so it'll be interesting to see another high-powered offense coming to play Mississippi State and how the defense reacts.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is going to be an interesting test for Texas A&M, because I feel like, and I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way if you're an Aggie fan. I feel like some of the explosiveness for this offense is a little bit overblown in the sense that you hadn't really played a good defense until you faced Auburn. Right. So this is going to be an interesting test with Mississippi State, because I thought they did a really good job against Joey Aguilar for the most part, especially throughout the early parts of that game. And how does Marcel Reed respond to obviously his worst game of the season so far against Auburn, and even against Notre Dame, his completion percentage was extremely low, and he wasn't very efficient. He was just hitting some big plays when the opportunity arose. So I'll be interested to see if they can be consistent against this team, because if you can't be consistent against Mississippi State, I think that running game is going to eat you up, and it's going to keep you off the field. So that'll be interesting to watch for sure.
Yeah, and Aguilar obviously had a lot of yards, but they also forced some turnovers, and sometimes it was like a big pass play, and then the offense would stall out. So it was a lot of empty calorie yards, I guess, too. But he obviously had a great game. But I'm glad you mentioned the quarterback, because Marcel Reed has been really impressive. To Landon and I both have talked about it, because coming into the year, the biggest question was how good of a thrower he was. And you mentioned he's been a little inconsistent, but he's been better than I thought he was going to be this year. And I think that's why a lot of people maybe weren't as high on A&M before the season started. And now a lot of them are talking about them as a sleeper team because of how well he's played.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't had the highest completion percentage necessarily. Like I think it was 17 of 37 or something against Notre Dame, which isn't great. Yeah. But he's done a lot of things that have been marked improvements over last year in terms of his mechanics, in terms of his patience, his footwork, anticipation. Those kinds of things are all better. He seems a lot more confident. He's got a good chemistry with these receivers, and he's been able to find find spots in the zone and to create big plays for these wide receivers who, if you get them the ball in space, they're just going to run past everyone.
Right.
And also his anticipation has been fantastic with these guys running in and out of these tight windows and things like that. So all of those things are extremely good. He's not afraid to rip the ball into a tight zone either, which I think is extremely impressive and something you didn't necessarily see last year. So those are all things in the passing game that have been good. And then, he's obviously a really dangerous runner. So he can do a lot of different things that make things difficult for you. If he can just kind of, in the big game, whether that's against Mississippi State or later on down the line, get that completion percentage up a little bit higher, I think that he's really going to start to take over as one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC.
Yeah, and he obviously has two of the best receivers so far in the
Yeah.
country. Craver was obviously Mississippi State last year, so we know all about him. But for Shapen, he's just been solid. He kind of is what you would expect from a guy that's played as much football as he's played. Has 1,064 yards, 8 touchdowns, completed almost 66% of his passes. But he's not a guy, and we've talked about this quite a bit. He's not a guy that's going to be like this NFL starter. Like, he's not that. He's just a solid college quarterback, and when you're in the second year of a rebuild, like, he's the guy that you want out there because he's not going to make the big mistakes. He knows the game because he has a ton of experience. And so that's what you would expect. But then he obviously made the big mistakes against Tennessee. And so if he's making those mistakes, do they look at Kamario Taylor, the true freshman? That's the big time recruit for them that does come in some short yardage packages. Does he ever, take over the reins? Obviously not right now. It's still Shapen, and the big thing for him is he's got to hit on the deep passes. Early in the year, he was hitting those a lot. And then the last 2 weeks, he's been kind of hit and miss on them. So if he can get back to hitting those with the speed receivers like Brennan Thompson and Anthony Evans, then that could give Mississippi State a path to success in this game.
Yeah, I really like Blake Shapen a lot. I think he's a really smart quarterback. He doesn't make a whole lot of mistakes. I mean, it's hard not to make mistakes in a big time atmosphere
Right.
like the Tennessee game, and that was such a tightly contested game. You can't really fault him necessarily for that. I think he'll have an opportunity to hit some big plays against Texas A&M. They've got two really good corners, in Will Lee and Des Ricks, but they've also given up some plays this year. Not Ricks; he's been like
Right.
almost impossible to complete a pass on this year. Will Lee, like the whole passing game has not been up to par defensively for Texas A&M. So I think Blake Shapen's going to have some opportunities. But honestly, I think the biggest thing in this game for Mississippi State, if I'm looking at it from, how can they expose Texas A&M, would be Fluff Bothwell. I think that guy's an absolute bowling ball, and that's the kind of running back that can give A&M a lot of problems. Robert Henry Jr. earlier in the season, and obviously Jeremiah Love and Jarian Price against Notre Dame, both pretty physical guys. Like that can be the kind of running back that can give him problems. So that'd be something I'd look at as well.
Yeah, Bothwell's been really good this year. That was a big key going into the Tennessee game. How well could they run the football? Because Tennessee allowed less than 100 yards rushing per game. Obviously, if you take out the sack yardage, they had over 200 yards rushing. Mississippi State did, and Bothwell was a big part of that. It was they were struggling to tackle him. Even multiple times, I was like, "Oh, that's a tackle for loss," and he would get 3 or 4 yards, which again doesn't seem like much, but I mean, when it's going to be a negative play, that works out well. All right, who are you picking in the game, and what's your score?
Oh man, this is such a tough one for me. Is it still 14.5 point spread?
Last I saw was 14. Yes, 14 and a half still.
Okay. See, I think that's way too big. I
Yeah.
just think that Mississippi State can control the clock a little bit and you kind of eat it up with Bothwell. Um, I think that's just I just think that's way too big of a spread. I think this is Texas A&M's on upset alert. But does that mean Mississippi State's going to win? I'm not saying that. I just think it's going to be a lot closer than the experts think, as Lee Corso would say. So I'll go something like 27-20, Texas A&M, maybe.
Okay. Yeah. I was going 31-27 A&M, so I think it's going to be a close game again. I'm curious if this is like the slip up game, like you mentioned, upset alert, slip up game for A&M, because it seems like they always have one at home.
hmm
So is this that one? But I'm not quite there yet. So I'm going to go 31-27 Mississippi, Texas A&M, actually, not Mississippi State. But no, thanks so much for joining us. This was a lot of fun.
Of course, yeah, absolutely. I love doing these crossovers, so it should be a good game this weekend, man. It should be a great one.
Yeah, it's going to be exciting. And for those at home, it's Saturday SEC Network at 6:30 Central Time. So you definitely don't want to miss that.
Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride with more IIHS Top Safety Pick awards than anyone else as of August 2025. And you can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from metallic accents to the available Nappa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. College football is back, and I couldn't be more excited. The tailgates, the rivalries, the energy in the stands, there's just nothing like it. But let's be real, actually getting those tickets can feel like more of a battle than the game itself. Endless queues, hidden fees, and prices jumping at checkout. And that's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. It's the easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. And the thing I love most about Game Time is the fact you can see what you're going to see from your seat when you buy that ticket. You get on there, click on the seat view, you see your view. You don't have to worry what that seat is going to look like when you get to the stadium, because you already know. And no hidden fees. You know what you're paying before you get to checkout. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. And again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today.
Well, thanks for making Locked On Mississippi State your first listen every single day, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. One thing we know, Scout, big fan of both of those apps.
Yeah, always.
Big fan, always. We love the support.
He supports me so much.
All right, we have to get into our upset of the week. I'm coming off a win, so don't let me get hot. Because
And I get a semi-win.
You got a semi-win. You covered the spread, just didn't win the game.
Exactly.
If I get one more, what they call that, a winning streak. So let's see what we can do. But Landon, you go first. Who you got on upset alert?
All right, so I'm kind of breaking our rules just a little bit on this one. So we talked about the spread, and I'm going with Cincinnati over Iowa State. Last line I saw, Cincinnati was favored by 1.5. But when you're unranked and the team you're playing is ranked 14th and you beat them, I don't care what the spread is, that's an upset in my book. So I'm taking Cincinnati in that one.
Yeah, no, I like that one. I looked at that one as picking Iowa State because of going by the spread, but I don't mind if you want to go with a rank as an upset, because I agree. And also, by the time kickoff happens, I bet Iowa State is eventually favored in that one. I looked at a couple of these. There was several that actually intrigued me. Mm-hmm. One of them that interested me a little bit was the Vanderbilt-Alabama one, because Alabama's favored by 10.5. But I was like, I do think Alabama's going to win that. Do they cover? We'll see. I liked Florida State maybe possibly beating Miami and getting that cover. One thing I will say, because I also looked at the Mississippi State 14.5 to A&M, but I don't want to ever pick Mississippi State as the upset. The reason is because we're giving our predictions already in shows. Like I want to give another prediction. So that's kind of my thought process when it comes to that kind of stuff. So ultimately, should I do it? I'm going to do it. I'm going with it. Florida upsets Texas this week at the Swamp. Texas is favored by 6.5. I don't really like either of these teams. I especially offensively. I saw a stat the other day. I think it's 130th and 123rd and third down offense for both these teams. But I think DJ Lagway's a better quarterback than Arch. He's just been hurt. And I've been reading stuff this week about him kind of refocusing, and even the team saying they've kind of seen a different look in his eye this week. And he even mentioned that he had a meeting with the players and said, hey, we got to cut this stuff out. We got to get serious and start getting this season turned around. Both teams coming off a bye week. Arch Manning, until you do it, first off, until you do it in consecutive weeks, I don't believe in it. But also, until you do it against an actual Power 4 program, I'm not believing in it either. Just because you did against Sam Houston State, like, that means nothing to me. And just for those out there, it would have meant nothing to me if he's played well in all 3 games outside of Ohio State. It's just, I don't care until you play a team that's actually talented, whereas Florida might not be very good, but they're at least talented. I want to see it. So I'm going to go with it. I'll go with Gators at the Swamp, knocking off Texas. And if that happens, I know they have 2 losses and they could run the table. I think Texas is out of the playoff race with 2 losses because of how bad their schedule is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate that pick either. I thought about it.
And I think we'll lose to Georgia later.
I mean, we saw Arch didn't play well at Ohio State, and we know how crazy it can get in the Swamp. So if he hasn't shaken off that whole road game, jitters that he had, it could get ugly.
Yeah, the other one I almost went with because, like, this was like a very close second, is just because I feel like at this point you always have to pick against Clemson.
Yeah.
But then I realized they were playing North Carolina. It's like, I'll give Clemson on that one. Yeah, I'll give it to Clemson on that one. But all right, that's our upsets. Let's see if we can keep the momentum going here. I don't have a lot of faith in my pick, but all right.
I don't either.
It's another big moment on Locked On College Football fans. Locked On and Fire TV present College Football Kickoff, your ultimate college football weekly preview. Drake 12, Locked On Big 12, leads the conversation alongside 2-time AP Coach of the Year Gary Patterson, former college star Jesse Holley, and Locked On's local experts. A college football preview only Locked On can do. Catch College Football Kickoff every Thursday throughout the season only on Fire TV. My name is Jaron. Check out my work over at Athlon Sports. That's Landon. Follow us, Locked On Mississippi State. We're on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. We post daily videos Monday through Friday, so check those out. We also post a pre- and post-game video on Saturdays, so look at that. Look for that as well. And, yeah, until next time, Hail State.
Hail State.